Welcome to MCN. We're at Imola today. We're on a Pirelli Superbike track day, and we've got one of the most extreme, most expensive, most hardcore road going track bikes to play on today, and it's Ducati's Panigale V4R. It costs £5 short of £39,000, which is a lot of cash, and it's a homologation special. So what that means is this is the bike that Ducati use as the basis for their superbike races. It's 1000cc rather than a 1100 like the rest of the Panigale range. It revs to the moon and back. It makes a wally load of power and we're going to get to play on it all day. So this is actually the second V4R that Ducati produced. The first one was in 2019 and this is the 2023 model with loads of new parts, new upgrades. Hope I don't need that. To make it faster as a road bike and make it faster for the racers. So without further ado, let me give you a little walk around the Panigale V4 in the garage. So the first thing to note about this is that it might look nice in pictures, but it's absolutely breathtaking in the flesh. That red just is a lot brighter than it looks on your video screen right now, and it's just so compact, so aggressive. So whether you're Bautista or Bridewell, this is the bike that starts the journey into a race bike, and most notable is a 998cc engine. So this is basically the same as the old V4R, but it's got some internal tweaks, new conrods, loads of little detail changes, but the sort of headline figures are that it makes 215 bhp at the crank in standard trim. Then you whack the race exhaust on and it makes 234 bhp, and then you put some special oil in it and then it brings it up to 237 bhp, which is absolutely insane. So this is basically a V4S with a smaller engine, but there's a load of detail changes. So I mean, let's just go through a few of them. The aluminium chassis is largely the same, but it's got cutouts near the headstock to give it more flex in the corners. So coming down, we've got higher spec Brembo Styler brakes. These are Styler Mirage, and you've got carbon fibre everywhere, carbon fibre wings, carbon fibre mud guard, exhaust guard, dry clutch. For today, we're on Pirelli Slicks, which is music to my ears, and also we're access all areas, so we can go out in every single session, which is amazing. Also, for the first time, this is going to be a numbered bike. So you can see the number on the headstock, although it's not going to be made in a limited run. I'll show you this dash later on. Maybe I can do it now. If you put it in race mode. Right, so this is the race mode layout, and if you can see these rider aid tabs, so these actually light up when you're using them. So when you're on the track, you can see if you're using slide control, traction control, wheelie control, engine braking control, and then you can change the rider aids to suit if you're not using them enough or if you're using them too much, and you can do that on the fly, which is pretty cool. Lots of attention to detail, nice chunky handlebar grips, and the bodywork has all undergone the changes of the 2022 Panigale V4S, so got a slightly reshaped tank and seat unit just to make the rider more comfortable. You've got an adjustable swing arm pivot, but the thing I'm most looking forward to about riding this is the fact that Ducati have changed their philosophy in recent years. The original Panigales, including this V4R, was quite angry. It was all about the power, it was all about the races, it was all about Alessandro Vaglia, the test rider who could just ride it absolutely sideways everywhere. But Ducati have decided that that's not really good for you and me, and they've made it much easier to ride with electronics, with chassis tweaks, and I actually rode the V4S Panigale last week in Sicily, and all of those changes just make it so easy to ride. And the main thing is the mapping. The mapping is the thing you feel, rather than the electronic rider aids, wheelie control and slide control, all that kind of stuff. It's the mapping. That's what makes really powerful superbikes easy to ride. The bike just gives you the power you need, plus a little bit of change. so you're not fighting with the bike. It's just soft, and then you get full power kind of in the top revs. But it's more than just cutting the power in lower revs. The bike's got gear by gear engine maps, just to give you the perfect amount of torque, power delivery. Well, these guys are having fun. I can't wait to get out there. So anyway, we're all rushing around like it's about to rain, but in actual fact, as the day's getting on, the track's getting hotter and hotter. I reckon it's going to be 60-degree track temperature later on, so we're going to get our skates on. Got a few sessions under our belt now, and this Ducati technician doesn't come with the bike, although for the price you think he might do. Can't really push this yet because I'm just sort of learning my way around, but you know, one of the things that stands out straight away is how friendly it is compared to the original V4R, which is an angry MF. This is an easy bike to learn the track on. They put it in race shift for me, which feels more natural. I spoke about the exhaust earlier that releases the power. The exhaust, the race exhaust, doesn't come included. So here's one I found earlier. So this is the full titanium race exhaust. The old wheelbarrow handles. Now, if you would like this exhaust to go on your 38 grand motorcycle, that would be £7,500 to you, sir. Let's stick with the standard one, eh? The other thing I may or may not have mentioned at the beginning was with regard to suspension. So one of the things that sets the R apart from the V4S is the fact it's got Öhlins, still got TTX rear and gas forks for the first time on the Panigales like the V4S, but they're not electronic, they're not semi-active, so they're just purely mechanically adjustable, because the idea behind that is that when you're on a racetrack, you basically want the suspension settings to stay static. You don't need them to adjust as you're riding along. One of the things about the V4S is that you can change the riding modes, and then you can make the suspension softer or harder, which you don't need to do on a track bike. So yeah, so far, so blinking good. So that's our day done riding the Panigale V4R on an Italian track day. I mean, Italian track days are a lot like British track days, but it's a lot hotter. I think the track temperature is close to 60 degrees at the moment. It's ridiculous. There's a lot more preening. There's a lot more people walking around in their pants, bizarrely, after having a shower. And there's a lot of Ducatis here. There's loads of Panigales here, which you don't really see so much in the UK, which just goes to show that a lot of people do use Panigales to have fun on around the track, which is kind of a little bit hard to believe given how expensive they are. But you know, if you got it, you may as well flaunt it. So as for the V4R, it's kind of what I expected it would be. You know, just like the V4S, the 2022 V4S, it's a lot friendlier than it used to be, you know, mainly down to the mapping. So you know, it's friendlier on the throttle, doesn't try and fly out your hand, but it kind of still has the same character. So compared to the 1100 V4S, it hasn't got as much torque and it hasn't got as much oomph out the corners. You've got to rev it a little bit harder, kind of a little bit more like a 600 in kind of relative terms. So in some ways that makes it easier to ride because it doesn't try and tie itself in knots out of corners with all the torque, and the mapping calms it all down anyway. But equally it's probably not as easy to gather speed as the 1100. You kind of got to work for it a little bit more. Elsewhere it feels very similar to the 1100. You know, there's more braking power than you could possibly manage or have the strength for. The electronics are absolutely superb with regard to the mapping and the wheelie control and the traction control. There's more grip than you can shake a stick at, although having said that, today with the track temperatures, kind of been a little bit careful going into the corners because you know, the thought of sending a £38,000 motorcycle into the scenery doesn't fill me with much joy. So I've been a little bit careful. And you know, like all Panigales now, the level is much higher than sort of the likes of you and me could ever muster. But it's a beautiful thing. Is it worth 38 grand? No, not really. This bike has been made with the express purpose of being a homologation special for World Superbikes. I'm sure that if they didn't have to do that, if Ducati didn't have to do that, they would only produce the 1100. And to be honest, the 1100 is kind of just as good on track for kind of a normal rider of my level. I think maybe if you're a professional rider, you might be able to squeeze more out the V4R. You know, you might be able to take advantage of the sort of adjustment that you've got with the swing and arm pivot, the sort of the extra flex you've got at full lean with the frame cutouts, the extra power of the brakes. You know, it's all there. It's all there if you're good enough to use it, but I'm not. So really, you know, if I had the choice in a V4R and a V4S around the track, I'd just go for the cheaper one and be very happy. You know, what that 38 grand is also getting you, if you're fortunate enough to be in that position where you can buy one, is exclusivity. You know, you've got the best of the best road-going Ducati Panigale, you know, and that's going to be worth it to a lot of people. But in terms of pure performance gains, I don't think it's going to make you a lot faster. In standard trim, it's only a couple of bhp more powerful, and you've got to rev it harder. So yeah, if you got 38 grand for a track day bike, then get the V4R Panigale, and it will be sort of the ultimate expression of kind of speed and handling and beauty. But for 10 grand less, you can buy the V4S and be every bit as happy, although it's still a ton of money. So that's it, that's our day at Imola done. Gonna go and have a cold shower. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.